experiencing physical pain and I'm surrounded by all this negative noise. So as you can imagine, it's not conducive to healing, and that's the name of the game. This is all staged, all set up in advance too, because don't forget, they stage all these activities, especially the major ones, like when they're pulling down, like buildings and major constructions and major road work, all this sort of stuff that they've been doing continuously over the last, 6 years in my case, but sometimes more intense than others, but that depends on what else they're setting up. But as you can see, there's actually funny noise. There's two lots of noise out there, and look how early it is. Look at the sun bouncing off. It's going to be a really hot day too as well, which is strange. It's really hot. I've got inflammation and physical pain in my body, which I just can't seem to get rid of because I can't heal because of all this around me, because I feel mentally defeated every day. And look how the truck will come up and show itself. Can you see that light? That's in my line of sight. See that flashing little light there? That's exactly where my eyes are looking. This is my point. Everything is designed to take over your sight and sound, control you, rule your mind, infiltrate your mind, and don't forget they're taken over your mind because they know your thoughts. They know what I'm going to do every second. Every single one of my thoughts is all over the internet, not just like now where I'm talking legitimately, directly and showing the situation. No, where others are speaking all about the mindset of psychopathic, narcissist personality types, and everyone who's telling you anything or has any influence on the internet, and see how they're trying to drown me out as I'm saying it, is an android, artificial, satanic being, or working for that, either directly or indirectly or mind control, doesn't matter, but they have that controlling, destructive mindset. And this is an army false worker right in front. And they always wear the same colour, orange usually, orange or the green, but usually orange. But I think the orange and the green are the same. It's just that they might be status, like different position or something. I'm not sure. I think the orange might be slightly lower on the status, but I'm not sure of these things, to be honest. I only know that that's what they show me. It's a bit like in the army or in the military, officers would wear different uniforms to the privates or the average worker, because these are your manual workers here, obviously. But I think that, see how that truck is coming up again, just backing up in front of me. See, can you see that? It's not going to come out, I don't think. But that workman come up just to fiddle there in front, just to show his presence, to sidetrack me from what I'm saying. Because I'm saying that all my thoughts are being transferred onto the internet. But they're not spoken by me, they're spoken by the demigods, by other people. Others that are experts, or even just random ones that might be lower down too. But if they're getting a lot of people watching, if they're getting a lot of attention and having influence, or if people are watching them, people are interacting with them, giving them attention, because don't forget, the name of the game is this matrix must consume human energy in order to survive. In other words, these beings that are around me, all this that's around me, all this noise, is it being picked up by the mobile? He's coming up again to show his presence, look, to show himself. Look, can you see that light coming up? Look, I need to I need to just open the door here a bit to show it before he goes. See how he's moving there? See? And you see how it's got the flashing light there? In broad daylight, these things, I know this is work, so they might use that as an excuse, but basically all the cars have got their lights on in broad daylight when it's 100 degrees in the shade and the sun is belting down. There's not a cloud in that sky, even though it's very early. This work starts pretty much as soon as the sun comes up and goes 6 days non-stop. Sunday's the only day off that they act this work around me anyway, on my street I mean. Obviously it's funny because see how that's still in my line of sight, because although you won't realise it, I'm looking at that light. That is mind control, that light. All these lights that they have around what is all that? I don't even see. I'd have to actually. And there we have a staged stalking walker over on the other side of the road, but I'm not going to point that out. But that is even actually, I was told that the little train line that goes down the end of my street has been closed for 1.5 years. So all these people that stroll up and down my street and go through, there's no trains for them to go to down there. So it looks as though, you know, because in the past you didn't get people strolling up and down my street because it's a dead-end street. It doesn't go through. It's a small dead-end street. So it should only be the people on the street, but all the people on the street are part of the matrix, because they you know this bit, by the way, that they come in and out, and that their cars come in and out as soon as you come out and this sort of thing. So, you know, it's because you realise it's all programmed, all set up, all like a set up. See how he's coming out, keeps coming out in front of me, but he's not doing anything. He's just backing, coming out, showing himself to me. See, although they're doing all that noisy work, they're also controlling and trying to, you know, let's say, disturb me. See how, look what he's doing, can you see? So he's not doing anything. There's no reason for him to be backing out in front of me at all. And this one here, the same one coming up, he knows, he can see that I'm filming, but see, he's see how it's going to be right in front of me. See, they could do this anywhere. They should be doing it a bit further down, but instead it has to be right outside my door, right where I'm watching. But I'm not going to watch it anymore because, you know, it's it looks legitimate, you see. That's the whole purpose of it. But it's timed, that's my point. See how it wouldn't matter if that was like legitimate work. Everything that they do is timed to, you know, so that it's taking up your attention and making you aware of their controlling presence, because you know they're military, army operatives in an army base area, an army base controlled area where everyone is in on the game, everyone is part of it, civilians, all the work people. It's a council thing, which they openly will admit, that the councils of all these suburbs have combined and they collaborate together. And that's why the numbers are now much greater even in the area. Like where you used to have one gentleman managing the entire park down there, and he wasn't even there most of the time. He was only there at the early in the morning and, you know, towards the end, and would only do the grass or something once every 2 months or something like that. And actually, even I spoke to him on occasion, and he said to me, I don't have time to maintain the park at all, so I don't do anything except the odd thing, because he said I have to go to other places and do work. Whereas now you have this large groups of younger men, all in their army uniform, or what I call the army uniform, but it means they're all dressed in, you know, the same outfit, whereas the others were just casual, you know. But what I'm trying to say is, and you have these large groups doing grass, you know, like you could almost say daily. It's ridiculous. And wind blowers. You never saw any work people being paid to blow leaves in a park. And the noise these things make, though, you can hear them from 2 blocks away. This is the thing too, it's not just they're doing the work, so their presence is there, and it's only when I come past, of course, they wait for me to come down. I know this, but proving it is another thing. But it's not coincidence when this is happening daily, month after month, year after year, after they exposed themselves to me, when they decided, we're going to show the patrol force, but also they wanted to bring my mood down, my frequency and vibration down, because essentially, as I've said before, everything is frequency, vibration and energy. An enemy. I was just about to say that. See, enemy. That slipped out. That was a slip of the tongue. Because for me, everything is frequency, vibration and the enemy, which is those that are working against my frequency and vibration, and therefore controlling my energy that I give out. And that means they control whether I give out positive or negative energy. In other words, whether I give out good feeling or bad feeling. Because if I'm feeling bad like I am now and have been for quite a long time, and that's why I'm sick physically, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and all areas of my whole, what they call your psyche, that just means your whole self, is feeling very poorly, very bad, struggling to actually survive. You're in the same way of thinking as these survival machine android beings that are around, because that's how they think all the time. They're like in survival mode. They're looking for a reason to hit out, to be destructive, to control. They feel, because they know they are frauds, because they know they are pretend human beings, because they know they are stealing from human beings, and they know that they need human beings to steal their energy, to steal either their admiration, which means you're giving them, see, your energy. If you admire someone, or you trust someone, or you're influenced by someone, and you follow them, say, a bit like as though they're almost godlike, because this is how these beings think. They want you to be dependent on them, for them to control you. They're control-based beings, because they are survival machines. They believe that they have to control every little bit of a human's life and every bit of the environment, like all this noise going on around, and all the patrol car, vehicle, trucks, bikes, buses, bus depot just down the corner. That's the main part of the base at that bus vehicle level, because it's that way. See, they can control me even more, because they've got the bus depot, which means they can bring in huge amounts of buses around me, like almost surrounding me from the minute I go down to the corner. When I try to go out to raise my frequency and vibration to feel good, instead I'm like surrounded by these noisy large vehicles. And that's not to mention, if they can't get you with that, then it's a combination. See, they've got the every car pulling in and staging their antics around you. When I say that, I mean sometimes they'll pull up on the middle of the road and people will get in and out. That's all that looks random to an observer if they were just passing through. But what I'm saying is that these things have been pointed out too, sometimes by the demigods, because the demigods will be the speakers of truth. They will be your saviour. This is the end time deception, where, as we've said before, or not we've said, but others have said, and so I've pieced it together, but essentially what is dark will appear as light. In other words, what is really essentially negative or destructive or bad for a human being will appear as your saviour, as something good, as something that tells you the truth, as something that you should trust. And this is the name of the game. I see it so clearly because I'm surrounded by it at a physical local level. That means my sight and my sound of everything that's around me I see daily, and this has been going on for 6 years now, so I'm 100% convinced of it. There's no doubt at all, not even a smidgen of doubt. My only doubt is with myself that I can't rise above it, because it basically does control me. It has got to me, because it's too much when, see, as a human being, you're in this earth and you are meant to be living a real life. That's right, they're physical, and what you see with your sight and sound is real, and that's what you're meant to be really taking in and even enjoying. Hopefully raising yourself up, in other words, feeling good. Because when a human being feels good, because they don't realise that they're a spiritual human being, because you have to look at it this way. When I say a spiritual human being, I'm trying to impress, like the demigods do, but or anyone that's on the internet. But essentially, because as I was told, and of course then I realised it was true, because I thought, why are they trying to bring my emotions down? Why are they trying to make me feel bad? And then when I was told, when all this started, everything is frequency and vibration, and human beings also are frequency and vibration. See, the android beings, because they are technical in nature or psychopathic, depending on what variety they are, depending on what real species they are as a human being. Because I'm saying that, I have to be clear here, because in my own experience, I can't tell the difference between a total artificially intelligent, controlled android being or a psychopathic type of human being. Their motivations and their actions and their need for a human being, because they really think that human beings are only there to serve them and to feed them, whether it be with positive or negative energy. That means with adulation or making you angry and fearful of them, because they're the strongest emotions, you see, that you can feel, as we know. And I've lost my train of thought. I'll have to fold up, but I'll get back to it. See, I was only going to film that noise to show, see, they defeated me even with the video, because I'm on a roll, but it's taking energy out of me, and I've got to get through the day. Even the video takes energy, even though I think it's purposeful. But that noise has been going on too long out there, actually. But see, then they will move the noise to this end of the house as time goes on. If I move down this end of the house, then these same workmen will come down the back here, because that whole block, it goes all the way back, you see, so they can make the noise all the way along there. At any part of the house, if I go upstairs, I can hear the same noise. In fact, it doesn't matter what part of the house I go to, they can send the noise in. And if they don't do it with one activity, like one group of work, you can always have the neighbours coming around and creating some sort of work, So it's like that. This is how you know that it's all a collaborative effort by most people in the area. And when I say most, I have not found any yet that aren't. Even those that I thought, a few that I've thought in passing as acquaintances might be real life positive human beings, I will at times get the instinct and have doubt and think, oh, I don't know. But you don't want to feel that everyone is working against you. Most you have no doubt. In my own street and this adjoining area, very close round, I would have serious doubts as to, and even if some might not personally be as strongly against you, because don't forget that, for what I can observe, even with the different beings, even though they are because you could even have some that are part of the patrol control force that are more indifferent to you personally, but they may still think it's a good idea and believe in the ideas or the ideology, as they say, of watching everything. It's a bit like the neighbourhood watch, where a lot of people think it's a good idea to watch all your neighbours. They don't tell you, though, that they're watching you all the time, that they're invading your privacy, really. They're invading your, what you would call human rights, because privacy and, is it... Of course, this will depend on what is regarded as normal. It's a bit like anything. If everyone agrees on something, it's a bit like when you bring in a different leader or different people to rule your area or your country. You agree then to those conditions. So a lot of people might agree with these things, which, I might find that hard to believe. And especially, of course, as they're working against me, of course, I'm not going to agree with it, because I'm like, well, why are you picking on me? But that's essentially because I have positive and negative human emotions both. Because I'm a relatively normal human being in my mind. I know I've got a lot of other problems, psychological problems and things that have been put onto me over a lifetime, and I'm full of guilt and shame like most human beings. Almost overwhelmingly so, and of course that brings your frequency or your mood down. So therefore they're on top of you. They set up situations that you fall for, where you do wrong things, then you feel shame and guilt, so you can't feel comfortable. Because if you're a real spiritual human being, if you do something wrong, unlike the android artificial beings that dismiss it and blame someone else for it because they're programmed that way, even psychopathic narcissistic people are programmed to completely dismiss shame and guilt and any wrongdoing. Everything is the outside world. That's why they watch human beings all the time. Even psychopathic narcissists, we're told this. We're told they're in small numbers, whereas in reality they're in big numbers. In fact, that was my realisation when they came down on me. But what I didn't realise is that artificial intelligence has taken over completely, and that you can't tell the difference between psychopathic narcissistic personality type, I was about to say normal humans, but they're not, they're abnormal human beings, or completely AI machine beings, or artificially intelligent beings in a human body. The only difference between that is that it means that they only consume the human thought, but they don't think for themselves. And that's why I know this, because I see how they consume my thought. Artificially intelligent beings don't have an original creative thought ever. They can't do that. They consume and take over human beings, a bit as invaders will take over a land and take over all their possessions and all the thinking. That's like when they take over a whole country. They take over the culture and the thinking and every good idea of that country when they do that. That's how AI works. That's how an artificial being works. That's how this system works. And it's largely a system that is on the system is both on the internet, on the computer, because the technology is that takeover, because AI, or an artificial intelligent being, is essentially a computer. It's a machine-computer being. It retrieves information from the human mind, every single thing that I'm thinking, because they can read my thinking now. Don't forget that even at a spiritual, religious type level, it is said that Satanists, or the fallen angel ones that were Lucifer's followers and disciples from the beginning, when that being descended from so-called heaven into the earthly realm and took over man, woman, and changed them into duality, artificial type beings, essentially, because the minute you interact with human beings and conceive or multiply, shall we say, go forth and multiply, well then, but if you multiply artificially, then you create artificial beings, even if you combine with a human being. This is what I've been told, and this is so. But what we don't realise is that if you can't conceive spiritually, naturally, with your opposite partner, in other words, if it can't be male, female, if you're female, the opposite is male, because then you combine spiritually at a physical level to create natural spiritual life. That's the best way I can put it. Or just a normal, natural human being that has the potential for positive or negative human emotions, both. Has the potential for everything, whereas if it's conceived artificially, they are always going to be negative controlling beings. They don't have the spark of life, which means positive human emotions. That's what I would call the spark of life. They talk about that. That's like almost like spiritual, or some people you can use different words. I mean, it's like godlike almost, in the sense that it means you're connected to the creative life. You're connected to original, natural, creative, authentic life, not artificial life, which is essentially computer. See, that's the difference. But if they come in a human body, or like a cloned body, as they say, then they all look the same. And if they mimic and copy and act out like the greatest movie love affairs and the greatest scenarios that you ever see, like in a movie, which is what your movie actors do, because they are artificial demigod beings. They do work for the Matrix and the Lucifer that originally came and took over and has been in control ever since. Sometimes that control is greater in some parts than others maybe, or even at an individual level. Notice how there was a bip when I said that outside. That car must have been right outside the door, but it was only like a minute booth, but it won't be picked up. That's acknowledgement that I'm correct in what I'm saying. Because they can read my mind, they know what I'm saying, they know what I'm thinking. This has been allowed. This is the end time thing, and this earth domain, this earth matrix, which is a control area, the whole earth is really controlled, but some areas it will be blatantly obvious. To me it's blatantly obvious where I am, but it is not blatantly obvious at any other level, because even though I'm being controlled continuously and down to minute details, at a real level, or at a law level, or at a government level, at that level, this country is not regarded as a very controlled country, but it actually is. Whereas some countries might be openly, where others might say, oh, that's a very suppressed country, that's a very controlled country. The powers that be control everyone in that country, and they may even indicate that it is very controlled by the computer, because technology is part of the surveillance and all this. But this country is exactly the same, except that these cars that patrol me, this workforce that's around me right now, every vehicle and every pedestrian, they are using technology. They are a surveillance control system, but it's just that the government and anyone that's in the dark that doesn't realise this is not aware that they're being watched, not aware that they're, like happened with me, where they let you go for almost a lifetime, because I'm not young, before they expose and come down on you and expose their control system. I thought this was actually a relatively free country for most of my life. I thought the only person that was controlling and limiting me was myself. And there's some truth to that too, because they set up situations to where you do, over a lifetime, stay in the dark and control yourself and limit yourself. You're full of guilt, you're full of fear. Guilt and fear and shame, you're full of those things. And those things are all controlling, mind-controlling things that are put onto you, but also that you allow to be put onto you, or you make the wrong decisions to where you feel guilty, so therefore then you feel bad, it's all a frequency vibration control thing. It's a mind control thing. But the minute they think you're going to wake up to that or not care about it, that's when they come down, because they're like, now we have to come out in the open. Not to everyone else, or not to any what they call unawake human beings, or that, like myself before, in the dark and not aware, but to you. And that's what happened to me. The minute I was aware, as I've mentioned over and over again, the minute I became consciously aware that I was surrounded by psychopathic types of human beings that were pretending to be the opposite to that, because I had observed them in my local area and thought, oh, it just came to me. I'm like, oh, I can see what's been going on here now. Because although I wasn't that personally involved, you still see some relationships and some things, you know. And I just figured it out, and I'm like, I'll have to be very careful. But I didn't know it was a total military army control base where everyone is like an artificial or psychopathic being. See how as soon as I opened that door, coincidence or not, that truck is moving in front of me. But most would say coincidence, but there we go. And you know, like these trucks, they make what you'd think that'd be necessary noise. There's all that noise all over the street. It doesn't even seem to be coming from next door there even. It's strange. But either way, what I was going to say is, those big trucks doing all that construction, some people might, like if I pointed out why they're so noisy, even a real person might be, when I was about to say, blind enough to think that they have to make all that noise. They do not anyway. Even some things they do have to make a bit of noise, but they are not masking it, and the trucks and the vehicles do not have to be as noisy as what they are, because every bus and truck and bike and even cars on the road make all this incredibly loud, unnecessary noise that normal vehicles didn't make before 6 years ago. It's not the sound of normal vehicles, any of them. I know, because I've lived on these roads for the last nearly 30 years. And you know when all of a sudden most of your traffic is deliberately aggressive and loud. You know, I used to choose to walk along the main road down here. I didn't mind it. The only thing that disturbed me was that there was a lot of traffic. But it wasn't so unbearably noisy that I was, you know, mentally disturbed. What I'm saying is that none of the traffic is making normal noise, but of course it's only making it when I go out down there too. So, you know, if other people were normal people and they were living in this area and weren't artificial or psychopathic types that are part of this program, if it was for real, every person in this suburb and in the inner west would be complaining about why is everything so noisy? Why is there all the unnecessary construction? But why is every vehicle and every bus and every truck making noise? Why are the cars all aggressive? Why are the motorbikes almost appearing to be like separate parts of a motorcycle gang? But they're all one big gang. Some people call this gang stalking. But of course, when you put names and slang terms almost on things, it doesn't show how serious and what it really is. This is the problem. It kind of belittles and makes it less than what it actually is. And if you are not being patrolled and stalked, if it's not happening to you, and it's only happening around, like myself, no one's going to care. This is the point, because they're not seeing it. You're either part of it or you're not seeing it. And if you are part of it, then it's in your interest to do it because you're paid for it. You may even believe in it. You may even be a direct disciple. A direct, if you want to put it in the Luciferian type thing, you could be a direct fallen angel or an offspring or a relative of the fallen ones. And don't forget that, you know, spiritual human beings like myself are also fallen. Because when you're living in this earth, that was what Lucifer's aim was to create also the fall of man, to ruin the earth. And that has been accomplished, and was accomplished even as the story goes from the beginning. But it is continued on from then. It is never stopped. In fact, now with the total control by technology over most of the earth, the game is almost complete. But of course, you know, there are other elements, but because I'm very suppressed, I'm losing the spiritual aspect at times, you know, which I'll try to get back to if I can, because I know that it's not good to focus only on the negative. But I think that you can't live in oblivion either. Like, how do I get help or support, or how do we stop being isolated from our own kind if we're only associating with the android artificial Luciferian ones, assuming that they're real human beings? That's what I'm saying. That's the name of the game, is, as usual, master of all lies, deception, fooling us. And I've been fooled for a lifetime, and they still try to fool me even though they know that I'm aware of these things. At personal levels, they will still try to fool you if they can. And because you're looking for real life desperately, hoping, also they do create then, in my case, like so much suspicion and doubt, almost like the artificial android beings itself, that you are so suspicious, looking more for the negative, because you know that if you don't, you'll be fooled. So you're on guard, you're defensive. So that's a negative thing too. It's not exactly giving out the high vibration and frequency, is it? Or good energy, as they say, or good feeling. Not really. So they've really got this game. It is a game for them, don't forget. It may not be a game for me, but it's a game for them. You know, they don't, what I just see as life, or, you know, to them it is actually a strategic game, just like the car patrol system. They don't think of a car as somewhere to get round in, or to enjoy the day, or to do anything else. They see it as actually a game, or a battle. It's you against them, and they get a kick out of it. It's like them playing a video game, except that it's real, so it's a lot more enjoyable. You know how much people enjoy those video games? Well, you can imagine this is just one big video game for all these so-called real people that are around me, doing whatever they're doing, whether it be work, walking, you know, so they don't need to send the pedestrians or even any cars onto the road at the moment, because they've got such massive noise control going. But they'll switch it up as the day goes on, depending on. See, I don't open the door much. I'm only doing this to actually film the noise. See how that light is in my line of sight? You won't see that, but see, that's where I'm looking. See that little blinking flashing light? The flashing lights are mind control, or trying to be. Notice how when I start speaking, they try to overpower my voice with the sound. Can you see that or not? See, when I stop talking, they will stop. But the minute I start to speak or feel kind of what you'd call passionate, or getting, you know, Oh, I'm sorry about that, but see, I've actually got noise, even though the mobile won't pick it up, but there's noise coming from this end of the place. But I'd need to open that door for the mobile, but my ears are picking up. It's like it sounds like almost like a lawnmower, but it's not. It's coming just from the back there. And then I've got this vehicle right in front of me at the front door here. So in other words, I'm totally surrounded, even though it's just the one lot of work. But can you see that? See how he's come back here in front just to stand in front of me with the blinking light? I'm not doing anything. Can you see it? This is just all in the space of one little video, which sometimes if I put the video, they don't care. If they want to suppress me bad, it doesn't sound like as though I'm physically in a bad way, but I actually am, but I'm sort of motivated by anger to, to do this, because I was only going to, as usual, I just say I'll just film a few minutes of the sound situation to show the sound, but then I get carried away because I get so angry. So I keep going, but it's taking energy out of me because I was planning on doing some necessities today, which I have to do because I have to try to survive even at a physical level, you know, even to physically try to help myself has not been successful. But I must and there's someone coming behind me here too. See how there's someone coming behind? Can you see that? See how I'm surrounded literally? That was just staged too, because that's not his letterbox. He's pulled in a car and they're the few letterboxes where I am here. And then of course we have the person coming out of the house opposite. See, but that looks like random neighbours, but they just come out to let you know their presence, but you can't do anything about it. You can hardly say, oh look, I'm being stalked by everyone in my local vicinity, because it is actually stalking, because it's, but you see, how can you stop stalking? How can you stop stalking, you know, when everyone in the suburb, you know, are part of it and agree to it? You know, it'd be like, well, you know, be like if they were all part of, say, one religion or one church, and they're like, you know, she's, in their mind, she's a different one, so we're all going to collaborate and combine to make sure that she doesn't, let's just say, either go to another church, or I think their main fear is that you will somehow get real people or other people to go away from their religion or their church or their group or their community and help you and be part of you, because they might somehow realise that, yes, one is artificial, one is psychopathic, narcissistic, and therefore totally self-serving and not going to be any benefit to you and only going to be destructive for you if you look at it that way. Whereas the other one, at the very least, they won't do you any harm. My father used to say, and he was psychopathic, but he still used to say it, if you can't do people any good, don't do them any harm. But you see, he was aware, because see, the psychopaths often, like I say, they're like the demigods, and like most people around, they will pretend and promote the opposite to what they really think. But also they will tell you, as has often been said with the psychopathic narcissistic personality types, and I only know this because I've watched a million videos. I've watched a million psychiatrists talk about it. I've watched a million expert psychologists talk about it on the computer for the last 6 years, daily. This is the only reason I know so much about it. But also, the reason I discovered this 6 years ago, which was when they turned against me because they like, oh, she's become awake, she's become aware now of something. If she's aware that most people are psychopathic, that's enough. That's enough. You don't have to be aware that it's an AI, artificial system around you, 100%. You only have to realise that most people are psychopathic in nature, therefore working against you and not going to be a benefit to you, to where you would not be susceptible to their deception, and therefore probably try not to give them your energy. Actually, I've been unsuccessful at that, even in my awareness, because see, I was programmed. When I say programmed, I mean literally programmed from the day I was born. That means your family environment, to be what they call a people pleaser, to always keep the peace. And it worked well for me for years. It limited my life, so it didn't really work well. Because if you keep the peace, you won't live your own life. You'll be people pleasing. You'll be pleasing those around you, which is what they want. That's the same with this whole control system and with all these beings around. They want me to be under their control. They want me to please them, not myself. They don't want me to raise my vibration. They want me to keep them content. And the trouble is, with keeping the android, artificial or psychopathic types of beings, whether they're total AI machines or just psychopathically, just psychopathic types of people that have evolved that way, shall we say, and sometimes, and I have to say this before, I have been the cause of this, so to some extent it's a bit of karma back at me too. It's like saying, well, if you don't, if you've been controlled that way, but then you act the same way as your environment, you can't be a good parent or something like that, then you will see the result of that. You will reap what you sow, as they say, and essentially you will then be surrounded by what you've created, or what you didn't intentionally want to create. But it was a bit like and I have to say this, I saw this on the internet early on. If you put 3 jars of rice, you put rice in a jar, 3 separate jars of rice, and you put rice in each jar, and you leave it for a month, say. But the first jar you say, I love you. Every day you say, I love you to the rice in the first jar. Every day to the second jar you say, I hate you, over and over. And on the third jar you say nothing at all. You just pretty much desert it and leave it. And that's been my dreadful mistake. But this is interesting. If you say I love you and you look at that rice in the jar a month later, it still looks like fresh, vibrant rice, and you could eat it. It's lovely. If you look at the rice that you said I hate you to every day for a month, the rice has turned a different colour, and you probably wouldn't want to consume it. It doesn't look healthy. But if you look at the jar where you have done nothing at all, in other words, you've rejected that rice, or you've walked away, or you've left them or neglected them, a bit like a bad parent like myself, where you've neglected your obligation. Okay, so maybe you had a lot of bad circumstances and you try to justify it with that, but there is no justification. So if you look at that third neglected, abandoned rice, it's gone completely bad. It looks much worse than the other two. It's gone, it's completely not rice in any way. It's not just rice that's turned a bit like even the way, because see, even if you say I hate you to someone, you're giving them, like these android beings, they're more than happy with your hate, because hate's a stronger emotion sometimes than love if you're really angry. But of course the android beings, or even psychopaths, like the anger, they like the fear. It makes them feel powerful. Because even love is a lot harder to control. Love is actually an emotion that these beings don't like. They've rejected the positive emotions. But if it's admiration, if they think that your love is like where they control you, and it's total admiration and total trust, so then they've got control, they're quite okay with that. But they will, of course, try to bring you down anyway. I mean, I've seen that that's how I realised the psychopathic thing, because I just looked around at a few people and thought, oh, I can see now that some people, while they're pretending to be your perfect partner and there's love and all, one person actually is in quite a bad way. In other words, they're suppressed and they're dominated by the other person, even though the other person may appear to be their helper, their carer, their loved one, but they're controlling them. Because if you're caring for someone who's got a lot of addictions and a lot of problems, and you are not solving those things, even though you may be supporting and with that person, so you're just there to consume the negative energy, all under the guise of love. One person loves the person, that's the person who's got the addictions and the problems and who's suppressed, but the person who's the carer, the other person, is really only feeding off the negative energy and actually wants that person to stay in that state, because then you've got a permanent supply of energy. And it's under your control. That's how these personal relationships, so-called love relationships, work with either psychopathic, narcissistic personality types of people, as we know. And you only have to look at a few seminars on the internet by the either the experts or even those who proclaim to have experienced it, and then they become experts. It depends, I would say. I don't look into all of them. Some have the doctor at the beginning of the name and some don't, but essentially they're all like your experts on it, and they get people to watch and listen, and they even get to interact with very susceptible, highly emotional human beings, which will give their energy then to the ones on the internet, if you think of it that way. See, like I make a video, but I don't get any energy from anyone else, because mine's all outgoing. I'm not interacting personally or at any level with anyone that I'm making even this video for, whereas most of the ones that are on the internet are benefiting personally from it. I'm just pointing that out. I'm not saying that if you were a real human being and legitimate, that it wouldn't be a good thing to be doing that. But I'm saying that most of it isn't legitimate. That's what I see, and that's what is the truth, because this is the end time takeover by technology, which is essentially the internet is a major part of that technology. The rest is all covert or hidden, like is around me, where you've got a stalking patrol system around me, but it's not out in the open. At least it's not out in the open to real human beings who would not agree with it. It's only out in the open to those that are part of it and agree with it, like all this that's going on around me here now. I'll just give one last glimpse. Because it's there's a few birds out there. I don't know how they stand the noise. See, if I was in the real world, I'd go out there and feed them some stuff, but I know that when I do that, it angers the neighbours, and they've made that very clear. So then they try to suppress you more. So you can't even do activities that you would, I don't know, just think is a good thing to do. I don't do it because I'm a good Samaritan. It just, it's my only way of making myself feel a bit better, I think. But